Hello and welcome to Comic Line. I'm Sal.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Tiffany.
Today we're going to be discussing the third shared comic universe and whether it's possible, and if Valiant is that shared universe. Welcome to the show. We all read a sampling of it, and if you're not familiar, we actually did a meet and greet at New York Comic Con, courtesy of Valiant. We were at their booth. I think that we can say, just out of the gate, undisputedly, the books they're putting out are pretty consistently good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, both books I read were good.
Yeah, the books I read as well. What did you read, by the way?
I read Ninjak and Ivar Time Walker.
Nice. What'd you think?
I liked them both. I was actually really surprised by how much I liked Ninjak.
Really?
Yeah, I was not expecting to really care about it. I thought, oh, ninja book, whatever it is. But it was very well done. Ivar Time Walker was totally different and also fun. It was a very funny book.
Yes.
They were clearly going for that angle. Confusing at times with time travel, so it's going to be. But I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a good start to a new character.
Nice. I read Exo Manowar and Bloodshot Reborn. I actually read half of Ivar the Time Walker. I read Harbinger. I read a couple of these already, but my kind of,
choice
stuff was Exo and Bloodshot. They were the ones who were the most from the old... Like, I remember these characters.
Right.
So I'm like, let's see how they were, because I never gave them a shot back, 30 years ago. Ben, what'd you read?
I wrote Rye and as well as Armor Hunter's Harbinger.
Oh, cool.
They were very interesting books. Rye was very cool. I think I liked that one the most.
Really?
It was a huge mix kind of between Blade Runner and 1984.
Okay.
So it really spoke to
With
this whole weird dystopian future, along with a government that has a conspiracy to it, and the idea of sort of robotic androids being incorporated into society.
Okay.
So it worked very well.
With a dude with a sword?
With two swords that can travel through New Japan.
Oh.
And New Japan is an island that is floating above the Earth at the moment.
Okay, and it's in the future, right? It's in like
It is.
year
It's
4000 or something?
4000, yep.
Because Ivar the Time Walker has a cameo by Rye in it, where they go to the year 4000. And there's a scene from this book in that book.
Oh, that's cool. So they're playing with the...
They're playing up the continuity.
It's
big
really a
time.
shared universe. It's fantastic.
Tiffany, what'd you read?
Oh, I read Divinity and The Death-Defying Dr. Mirage.
Nice. What'd you think?
I liked them both. They were right up my alley.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. So, all right. We all read a bunch of Valiant books.
Yeah.
We all kind of unanimously agree that the titles are pretty good.
Yeah.
Did anybody notice any continuity or anything like crossover?
Yes, actually.
What'd you get?
Inside of Armor Hunter's Harbinger, there are 3 stories where it's the Harbinger story, featuring the team, I think it's Gen Zero. And then in the back, it tells them how it came about with Bloodshot.
Oh.
So there's a Bloodshot comic in the back of it that ties the continuity together in the whole universe.
Cool.
Okay. Did it feel like natural, or did it seem like it was kind of forced?
It actually did. I was very surprised at how well it tied together.
Okay.
As far as continuity goes, it's like any of the big two. DC and Marvel have their own shared continuities, although DC's kind of playing with it a little bit with DCU, like, each one has a continuity, and it's a little nebulous.
Yeah.
But for the first, 70 years of their company, continuity.
Right.
Marvel, one singular timeline, one continuity. Valiant has their own, or at least they're building it, and they've had the benefit of everyone else kind of field testing that idea before.
So they can gain off the shared experiences of the other publishers.
Well, they also, they know whether it works or not, and they know that people like it or not. And there's people on both sides of being beholden to continuity, and you're going to have the same trappings as the other guys, but at the same time, you're thinking about, okay, is there room for a third shared universe? That was kind of the question that was posed to me when we were talking with the Valiant guys, and it really stuck with me, and I was like, let's make that the topic, because I was wondering, is there room? And it's
Well, that's probably the question they get asked by people who are maybe skeptical. Who are is there really room for you?
Right.
Clear. Obviously, they think there is, or they wouldn't.
Right.
Well, they wouldn't
gone
be
in this direction.
making books.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, is Valiant still considered an indie publisher?
I think so. I mean, it is not...
It's not the big...
It's not the big two?
No.
No?
I don't think so, because really when you think of indie, it's driven by the author.
Yes. And these are driven by the characters in the company.
Okay.
That said, though, I mean, it's...
Then that doesn't mean that they probably don't, say,
identify.
I've got a story and I've got, whatever. Certainly, they're probably viewed more like that, but when you think about what indie really should be about, it's really, it's an artist written and writer driven.
Yes,
project.
Image does
These
not
are-
have a shared universe because they publish books
right
by
now. So
creators.
you're taking a pre-established character like Rye and Exo-Man of War and Bloodshot, and then you're creating stories about them. It kind of skews you away from indie.
Yes, that's true. I mean, the fact that you're trying to create a shared continuity with identifiable characters and build kind of your own Marvel or DC universe, kind of.
Well,
I think at the very least they
Image
don't.
for a second, because you mentioned Image. They did have a shared
They did,
continuity
yes.
back in the 90s.
When they started out, they thought they had to do what the other guys did.
Right.
And so when they created their characters, they were like, and they're all in one universe, and they all influence each other. And because Image was all about you own your own character, and you can do whatever you want with them, when people would take their toys and leave, you completely upset the fucking ship.
Right.
Right.
So Valiant wouldn't have that problem.
They don't have
that's-
the problem because they're all owned by the same company.
But
No
that's
one.
what I think is the most interesting about these characters and these stories right now, is that they're being created knowing that they're all going to intermingle.
Right.
Yes.
When Superman and Batman were created,
They had no
one-
idea.
No one thought that we would be at this point right now,
Right.
where
Right.
like, they have to intermingle and they have to talk to each other and they have to do this.
Yeah.
You know, when they're writing, a Batman story now, like sure, like he might show up in other books, but I mean now with continuity as it is in DC, it's very different. But I mean, they're not writing that with a long-term plan necessarily. They could be, but they don't have to.
Right.
These writers have to consider that when they put pen to paper.
Yes.
Well, they're trying to compress what occurred naturally in the history of DC and Marvel.
Yeah.
Over the span of like decades where the continuity evolved. They're trying to
It's like a 5-year window.
Yeah, and they have to because they've got to get in there when there's
Yeah.
already these two big publishers. They've got to create a continuity that matters to people in a short span of time before people lose their interest.
But I think where they possibly could succeed more so than the other two is they don't have to then go back and put Band-Aids on things.
Right.
Because they already thought about it.
Well, do they?
It's out.
Because here's the thing. Not telling tales out of school here. It's going to happen.
No, of course
Someone's
it's
going to do some. Someone's going to have
Well,
a terrible
yeah.
run,
No, it's
Further down the line.
and they're going to hate
Right.
it, and it's going to upset
Eventually,
everything.
Yes. But
No,
they
but
don't
I'm
have
saying,
to
like,
work in like
Yeah,
the
you don't-
ridiculous stuff.
Yeah,
from the
and you're not
past.
gonna
Oh, you
also
mean
work
there's
in,
not going to be
like-
a Valiant crisis?
No,
No, I
mean,
wasn't
like,
even talking about but see, this character was there, and let me just
Oh, they don't
tell
have
you
to
a quick-
retcon.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's it. They don't have to put a retcon Band-Aid on anything because they're already going forward knowing that everybody kind of has to work together.
Right. Yes. They already know the rules before they go forward.
Yeah.
In particular, and if they're doing it right, they won't ever have to explain away why the Avengers aren't at some massive event because we didn't bother to talk
Right.
about that.
Yes.
In this book, Ninjak, Exo-Man of War, Livewire, and the Eternal Warrior show up to like something that's happening.
Oh.
And it's like, well, if they exist in the world at
They
that
would.
time,
They
they
would
need
be
to be
there.
there.
But it's funny. That is almost a hindrance because if you have a city like Gotham that is hemorrhaging crime,
Right.
why doesn't Superman just show up and save the day every time? Like,
Right.
if Superman and Batman are best friends, and Batman
Right.
can literally contact Superman with a whisper,
Yeah.
how is he ever near death?
Because, well, again, they're
But we don't have a Superman in this universe.
No, I'm
No,
just simply
but-
saying,
like,
if aliens
yeah.
invade, right? Like Exo-Man of War is hinged upon alien invaders.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If aliens invade, and you want Exo-Man of War to be the main character, but you have a stronger character.
Ah.
well,
who could show up and-
they're going to have to answer. Like, well, what I'm saying is,
They have to create a plot
and
to
I don't think
explain
there's
why that
anything
doesn't
wrong
happen.
with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's what happened in Harbinger.
Really?
With the aliens that show up, the armor hunters
Yeah.
that show up to hunt Exo-Man of War, there is some sort of a robot that they send first to attack the Earth. And that's the story of Harbinger. It attacks the Earth, and this team is dealing with the aftermath of that attack.
Okay.
Of the aliens that come to hunt Exo-Man of War.
That's cool.
So it's the same story, and it's the same event, but told
Yeah.
in different spots.
with different characters.
Yeah.
I
So
like that.
it's a very smart way to do it.
That's cool.
And don't forget, the pool that they're playing with is a little smaller than what
It's a little
DC and
easier to
Marvel-
manage.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
right now they can really wrangle this, and I think that is going to really be in their favor. And as they grow, of course, it's going to change. Their model's going to change. What they're doing, it's going
and
to
they're
change.
going to want to introduce new characters, so it
Yeah.
will expand. But,
Right.
But,
But for-
starting from a small, hopefully manageable base,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe see where it goes.
Now, when you say small manageable base, do you think this base is too large? We have 9 titles, I want to say.
We have a lot more than that
There's
now.
more, yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's many more, but okay. So the Valiant is a group
Yes.
of the ones
It's more like an event, but it's a team.
right.
Okay.
So that doesn't really.
That doesn't. Well, it's more like
Are they in there? Do they have their own books though, or is
yes.
this, okay.
It's all these different characters that have their own books, but
Mm-hmm.
now
It's kind of
they're
like the
all-
Avengers.
Exactly.
So you've got Ninjak, you've got Ivar, Bloodshot, Exo-Man of War, Rye, Dr. Death? No.
The death-defying.
Death-defying Dr. Mirage.
Who's the character in Divinity?
Divinity.
Oh, Divinity.
Divinity.
Yeah. The Harbinger team, Psyots. That's not
Eternal Warrior. You've got a lot. It's
so we have represented here like 10.
Yep.
And then
there's Faith and all the other characters.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like, inside the books there are multiple characters, but as far as the titles go, you're not starting out with too many books
compared to the big two.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
No.
Like, you're not coming out with 52 new titles.
Right.
But you're going to cancel half of them.
Right.
But, and they're also not coming out with new titles every month.
Yeah, but for me, that makes me feel like they're going to put the time into it. When DC puts out, or when Marvel puts out, like, just like, here's a whole bunch of titles, you really know, you're like, not all of these are going to make it.
Oh, yeah.
But with this having a smaller pool of them, I'm like, these guys are probably going to finish the story out. Like, I'm going to get a start and I'm going to get an end to this.
Yeah. Well, at least you hope so.
Well, they're dedicated to it. That's
I just feel
drive
like,
behind it.
There's more chance.
Well, they're dedicated, certainly, and they have faith in their creative teams, they have faith in their characters, they have faith in their universe to put the time in that's necessary that, frankly, the mainstream comics don't seem to have as much of anymore.
Well, in a way, the big two are stretching themselves so thin by putting out so much that it really is a crapshoot. What's going to be good? What's not going to be that great?
Well, you never know. It's true. But the question that I have, and it's really kind of hinges on the main ultimate question, is there room for a third shared universe?
Right. Well,
because,
it's like, does anybody care?
Right.
You know, like, they can produce tons of quality books, but
and
can they get enough interest? Since so many comic fans are like comic fans because they like a particular character or set of characters.
Yep. I mean, you've got completists, you've got nostalgia buffs, you've got every corner of established comic fandom.
Right.
The other concern that I had was you have these great books, right, that they're producing, that they're putting all their time and effort into. There are hundreds of books that are produced in a year that are given the same level of love and talent that don't sell.
Right.
Like, Image produces a crap load of independent titles that are maybe 3 to 4 issues, and then that's it forever, and people still aren't buying them.
Right.
And that's the real concern.
And I think Valiant would say the reason that doesn't work for them is because they're not a shared universe. Like, you need to get people involved in the entire universe.
You have to appeal to their sensibilities as comic book classic fans.
Yeah, and you have to, like, as a company, you've got to have people who are willing to try, Ninjak, a new book that, maybe are fans of Ivar because they're fans of the brand, Valiant.
Well, also, I guess the other way is, if you're buying an independent book that has a miniseries, it's just a self-contained story.
Right.
You're doing that because you're a fan of that genre, or that artist, or that writer.
Yep.
With this, you're going to pick up a book, maybe because you like the art, you like the writing, or you like the idea or the concept, but because they're a shared universe, they'll have characters in there that intrigue you.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden it's a gateway, and now you're a Valiant fan.
Right. But there's also a different mentality between those who buy Big Two and those who buy indie. Those who buy indie, I mean, certainly there are long-running indie titles.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there are...
I mean, we got Walking Dead, Spawn, other stuff like that.
Yeah, Saga. Certainly there's that. And there certainly is exactly what you're talking about, where there is, like, the short run. Mm-hmm. People who buy the short run are buying the short run because that's the kind of reader they are. They don't want something going on forever.
If they're buying those books, they're not going to jump into Spider-Man.
Right, but I feel like in the comic book world, there are more readers who are long-run readers.
Right.
Yes.
So that's who the Valiant appeals are going for. They're actually trying to peel off from DC and Marvel, not so much from the indies.
To be fair, to answer the question, the overall just question of if there is room, I sure hope so. Because I'll be honest with you, if a third group comes in, I think it's going to affect Marvel and DC. Because Marvel and DC feed off of each other. They feed off of events, they feed off of what they're doing, whatever. These guys are doing things that are completely different than that. Yep. Right. And it'd be really interesting to see the influence they have on Marvel and DC.
Well, exactly like Image did in the 90s.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. For me, I hope so, in the same vein as what you were saying, but in a different way. I want them to produce better books over there, and I hope that the effort that is put into Valiant titles is something that appeals to them. Right. Because these are all different titles. Yeah. They may have something to do with each other, blah, blah, blah. The fact is they're all different, and they all have a symmetry to them that is undeniable and is just, as a collector, as a fan, as a comic book reader, like, these are beautifully bound, beautifully color coordinated and arranged.
Right.
They all have consistency to them. Like, they all came with some sketches. They all came with maybe they came with an infographic, or they all do a chapter break. And these are in the trade volumes, by the way. This is not in the individual monthlies,
No.
but the monthlies have a similar design scheme to them that makes it unmistakably Valiant and makes it not something else. You know, like, where you're just like, I want that, and I know that it has, if there's a standard of quality, like, I know that has a good quality, I know that does too. Hopefully that is the case, but at the very least, you're like, I want that, and that looks like that, and so I'll buy that too. Like,
Right. Well, having like the Valiant logo up in the corner,
which is
on every
that's
single
what
book.
that's what comic books used to do, and it was, like, that was the place, and it's kind of like harkening back to the way comic books used to be printed.
Yeah.
But putting it on the trade was an interesting move.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's keeping that same bar across all the different.
Well, the bar thing
title.
is also and they all have a different color.
And they play with it, like this one has
but they're all different.
A shape
but they're
going
all
through
there.
the bar,
Some
the
of them
bar's still
stop.
there.
This one has the art that goes into it, but it's all consistent.
Yes. And the consistency is something that I want to see in my trades and in my collected volumes, like Absolute Editions and sketchbooks and stuff like that.
Image tried that for a little bit. They dropped off, but they definitely had it going for a while, and I loved it.
Well, and I think Image doesn't want to do that because they want each book to feel like its
they
own
are
thing.
All
and
different.
that's
These guys are all together.
This is all together.
I mean, arguably for Valiant, it's more important to have that brand identity because they don't have the character identity. Like, at a certain point, DC and Marvel didn't have to sell the brand anymore because they were selling the character.
Exactly. No, if it has Captain America on the cover, and you're a fan, you're going to buy it.
Or if you're a fan of Captain America,
you saw the movie, you see the character, you buy it off the shelf. You don't need to say you don't need it to see that Marvel's there.
Right.
So I think what works in Valiant's favor is the fact that if there is room for a third universe, and I agree, I think there is, and I really hope there is. Their selling point is the universe. It's not the individual character. It's everything that goes through it.
Hopefully it's both, but the universe would help maybe multiply
because
their viewership or their readership.
From the books that I read, and knowing the fact that everything does tie in, I would have no qualms about picking up any of the other books that we read.
That's the thing.
And going from there and be like, let me see what this is. And I think the trades work so well with that.
They do.
Not trying to go from monthly to monthly, but picking up a trade and going from those stories and picking up different stories then. I think that's where the real key is.
Well, that's where I hope comics go. Is I don't want to do the monthly thing anymore. I want them to be collected and then sold this way.
And that's clearly what they're...
That's what they're... I mean, like, the question of whether there is room... I cannot say yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can say I hope so because I want to believe, but
you know a little something about like the industry as a whole. I don't know anything about
but you made an interesting point off camera that I want you to bring up at some point, but like which ties into it because like it's all about how much money you have in your wallet and what you're going to parcel out for what you care about.
Yes.
And a Spider-Man fan might appreciate what Valiant does, but at the end of the day, if they've only got $5, number one, they can't buy anything. But number two, if their dealer felt bad for them, they're going to get the new Spider-Man, which, by the way, will never end, will end on a cliffhanger, and will be undone by the time that like the next writer comes along. So like that, while that's frustrating,
that's where their dedication
that's the
lies.
reality.
Yes.
And I'm worried that there is no financial room for a shared universe, Valiant or otherwise, just because comic book fans, for the most part, like pick and choose and prioritize. And if push comes to shove financially, I'm
as
worried.
It inevitably does.
As it inevitably does.
So much money
it does. I mean, like the fact that I remember when the New 52 came out, and they were like, and we got 52 new titles, and it was during the recession. And what? I'm not going to buy 52 books a month for at like $3 to $4 an issue.
If we're going to talk about financial, can we talk about the fact that the trades are $10 though?
Yes.
And that's not something the big two are doing.
No.
Not at all.
They will charge you double this.
Yep, $34 I've seen for a book that's maybe like twice as long as this.
That was Image started doing that. They started doing the $10 trade. These are $10 trades, but it's a shared universe $10 trade, which I love that.
Yes.
Yeah. It's great.
It's an affordable shared universe.
Yep. Right. So the question is, I think for Valiant, can they afford to keep doing that? I mean, for the amount of time and effort that goes into these books, and I don't know how much that is.
To be fair, Image is doing that.
Yeah.
And they've been doing it for a while.
Are they making money? See, I don't know anything about
But
the
that's the
financial
thing.
health of the...
In the speculator world, we don't know.
We don't know, but what we do know is, of course, Image, much like DC and Marvel, branched out into other media.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of their money is coming from things like The Walking Dead.
Oh, the show?
Oh, yeah.
The show, the merchandise,
It's
the
pulling people
everything.
into...
Yeah.
I mean,
Right?
probably with the popularity of that show and that comic, they're probably single-handedly supporting Image,
Right.
or largely supporting these other
But,
books that aren't making money.
I mean, look at Marvel. Where is Marvel's money really coming from?
yeah, it's going from
The mouse.
movies and yeah.
So when you're starting a new shared universe, you have to, of course, look to new media.
And the fact is, we know about Valiant's brand deal or partnership with Sony Pictures.
Right.
So Sony will have the cinematic shared universe of Valiant.
Right.
And I think they're banking on that in a big, bad way.
Right.
What is the future of Valiant if the movies don't work?
Oh.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
I would be interested to see what their business strategy is.
Well-
Does it actually hinge on the movies, or are the movies
And-
a separate venture that they're hoping will help,
I
but
gotta-
they have a plan B?
I
if that
gotta
doesn't
tell you,
work?
they should not only, and I hope they're not. I have no
I'm
idea.
sure they're not.
I don't know what they're
Based
plan
on
is,
the
but,
consistent
no,
quality, I don't think they're putting all their eggs in one basket for the movies.
Thank you. I was going to say, I wouldn't solely be looking at movies. There are definitely a couple of books here, at least the books I read, who I think would translate better into a show.
I agree with you.
Into a serialized
Right.
show.
Yes.
So try to get
Something
like
that...
a Netflix show or something.
Yeah,
Such a good idea.
It could be a sci-fi show.
Yeah,
Especially
definitely
live
several of
action.
these could go
I was
on.
thinking animated, but live action shows could really work.
I mean, the fact is, they could legit do direct-to-DVD, anime...
It wouldn't have to be
Adaptations?
They don't have to do direct to DVD
No,
or
it
anything.
could just-
They could literally make an anime show.
Yeah,
Like,
and release
you
it on Funimation
or
or
Crunchyroll,
Amazon
who
or
cares?
Hulu or
Or
whatever.
Netflix.
Yeah.
Like, they could easily do that. These worlds lend themselves to that.
Yes. Yeah. At no
Here's
point am I going to look at any of these books and think like, oh, animation does not.
Well, I
work
was
for
thinking, like, okay, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man.
It's fantastic.
It's
so
fantastic, but those guys already kind of have a backstory. You kind of know it. Maybe Green Lantern you don't know so well. Maybe Ant-Man you don't know so well, but you can make it work. Like, you can quickly do that. Some of these characters kind of have some in-depth background going on, which you're exploring as you go.
Yeah,
which you could maybe translate into movie, but in a show,
You have the time.
more time.
You have more time, yeah. to
Yeah.
with the character.
You can
yeah.
pace yourself.
Yeah.
And like you can do it bit by bit,
Yes.
episode by episode.
That's the. I mean, like that's definitely a good strategy to approach, and I hope that they're listening or thinking about it because, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, call me.
The other thing is,
Because Sony was, the one that tells you that they are actually like that. This is an important part
Yes.
of the value because. To me, they need exposure. They need, if they're really gonna, because there are only so many people who are reading comics. They do have to poach from DC and Marvel, who are not necessarily doing great on the comic side.
yeah.
So they need to get exposure so that Man of War becomes
A
something that
household
people
name.
know about,
But
so
not
they
just-
might actually go to a comic store and pick it up.
And not just that, but see the little bloodshot right there? You see him?
This little guy.
See him right here?
Oh,
right
yes.
There, right? You
Yes.
want people looking for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You want them to
Whether
pick it
they're
up at
reading the comics
Comic-Cons
or
and-
not,
yeah.
you want them looking
Yeah,
for that.
yeah. You want them to say like, "I remember seeing that cool looking shape."
Yep.
Yeah, or you want
or
them,
that costume,
you
something.
want them getting those things and having them around, and then someone who is a comic book reader says like, "Oh, you're into that?
Yeah,
Here, did you
Right.
know?"
Yeah.
There's a book, and it's
Yeah.
really, it's actually really good.
Yeah.
Right.
How about this? When you look at the movies that they'll be making compared to what the big two are making, it's going to be very different.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
gonna be a totally different thing. That's
But,
why I'm
Which
like,
is very good.
Yeah,
it is very
I
good.
agree,
But
100%.
yeah, I don't want to see an Avengers type, the Valiant.
Well,
movie.
even if they did, it would be with characters who are so like out of the box that we're not
Yes.
used to
Yeah.
being together.
Well, and they're
like,
not
okay.
like they're not all kid friendly, or they're not all like lunchbox worthy.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't Disney putting it out.
No, it's true.
Right.
I don't know.
The fact that like one of the hinges in these is like time travel, like
Yeah.
that blows my mind, and I kind of like
Respect
really
it.
salute them for that. I
Yeah.
mean, to use time travel throughout multiple books and have characters like going here and there and like talking to each other, like I'm like, that's awesome, and it really again it indicates where these movies might go. Possibly,
Yeah.
who knows?
Now, what do they do? Do we know what movies
are coming out soon. I mean, like it's gonna be the main.
Yeah,
We're gonna get Exo, Bloodshot.
getting a Ninjak. I'm pretty sure getting Rye.
Yep.
Okay.
Like it'll
Yeah.
be. I don't think they're swinging out of the gate
they're
with
not
Dr.
gonna
Morales.
be going with the.
Yeah.
But that's what I picked these because when I read the backs of them, which by the way, thank you for putting a summary on the back of your book. Do you know how many people don't do that?
Oh yeah.
It drives me nuts.
Well, because they're just like, well,
You know
this
who
is a
Spider-Man
quote
is.
from
Yeah,
someone
you got
that
it.
says, "This was a fantastic read and eye-popping art."
they have that too, but
Yeah.
they also have everything. Like, they have the room.
Yeah, they have a but like they're not going to be starting with mine. Although mine does have best new superhero of 2015.
Again, going with consistency, every back has this.
Yeah.
Design-wise, you are knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
Well, they did. They. I mean, giving people context is important. I always give Marvel credit for putting in the front.
Oh, the little
bit of context.
Yeah.
And I wish
page.
that actually there was some of that here. Although there might be on the monthlies. I don't really know.
I did have that in mind.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did have some
That's good.
context
I
in
didn't in mind, but having
but
at
I
least
know-
on the back, at least you got something.
I didn't, but I wouldn't have needed it.
No?
Because, like, this is, like, encapsulates the history and the current
Right.
story, and this is an origin story.
I think the reason is because this didn't encapsulate that. It's jumping into the middle of something
Yeah.
after
And
the
it-
characters
and
have
it
already been established.
branched off of another
and
one.
it branched off of XO, yeah.
Faith.
I really want to read her book. Like, Valiant's doing some interesting things with
They're really pushing
women
Faith,
characters.
and that's really cool.
It's funny. It's like, that was one of the ones I wanted to get my hands on. I didn't have it at the time, but
But I want to know if it's authentic or not. That's
I
the
do.
other thing.
Because this is interesting. This is interesting. I dig it. Because it's a strong female character, but not necessarily written like a strong female. You know what I mean? Like, not written like banging you over the head.
Yeah.
Strong female character.
It's not the new Thor.
Or Alice from the Resident Evil movies.
Yeah. Well,
It's
that one.
obvious.
Yeah, that one's a little.
Get it?
Um.
She drives a motorcycle.
Yeah. No, this is way more like. The MacGuffin is like, you know how like usually it's something happens to the girl and that's the.
Yeah.
Typically, the woman is the MacGuffin.
It's the other way around.
Oh, that's fun.
That's cool.
So I'm like, all right, cool. It's natural.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I'm interested to see what they did with Faith because Faith is such a different character.
Yep.
So the fact is, like, they care about these stories. We had that chance to talk about them, and like,
It's true.
like seriously, they care about these stories. I know, like, you talk to a creator and they like the book that they're working on. Like,
Yes.
you know,
Or they like the one story they're telling.
Yeah, they like that story or whatever, and like you know that the editors must care to some degree. No, these guys care in a way that you're like, whoa, and they want to hear what you think about them.
That's the other thing. They really want input. They
Yeah.
want to know.
That's a good sign.
It is a
Right?
good sign.
Yeah.
It shows they're interested in growing and evolving.
Yeah. You know, regarding, just bring it back to the main question.
Yes.
If there is room for a third shared universe, and I don't know that there is, I don't know enough about the economics of the situation, but if there is, this is how you would do it, I say.
Really?
With the
I
trades.
think
You say this is the way.
the way
What
they're
doing,
going,
their whole
I don't
approach.
see how you could do any better. They're going all in.
Yeah,
Yep.
They're hitting, you know,
all the right points.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they're doing it. If I was to come up with a plan, I'd say, well, that would be.
I would
it.
do that.
well,
plan.
because it seems buttoned up. It
Yeah.
seems like they've got a flow chart somewhere.
Yes.
Somewhere there's a
Exactly.
wall,
Yeah.
and it has everything on it.
Yeah.
Do you
Including
mean
design.
that the seat of their pants don't have a flight plan of any kind? Like they're not doing that?
No, they've got like a 30-year out. They're
They
like,
really
"Yeah."
do.
Yeah.
Like,
And I bet they have like skewed alternate tangents if things don't work
Yeah.
out.
Right.
If there is an uptick in the economy, we will go with this.
Yeah.
And if it sucks, then we'll just cancel this, that, and this. But don't worry.
but, like,
bec-
isn't that nice?
That's
it
what-
feels
that-
nice.
well, it
feels
feels
planned.
like there's a person behind the wheel.
Yeah.
As opposed to just letting the universe and your own lineage and popularity drive the company bus.
Well,
Like,
and letting all the fans being like, well, I'm buying this, so like, all right, cancel all the other books
Right.
and focus on this
yeah,
character.
no. I mean, like, the fact is, they're just like, no. Well, listen, you're on board because it's good, not because you tell me who the most popular character is. Okay? Which, like, is a dangerous game to play. But if you win,
But it's a good gamble.
you know, you deserve it.
Yeah.
You've earned it. You can't say you haven't earned it. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, obviously, you know, this isn't the kind of show where you answer the question, but we did raise it, and I think we hit some really good points. But let us know in the comment section down below. What do you think? Is there room for a third shared universe? And is it Valiant? Let us know. We're looking forward to hearing about your thoughts and opinions. Damn, guys. I mean, like, this is one of the first times we've all just, like, read into this. We all, whether we
did
plan...
research.
We did research.
This is also the first Comic Con we've all been here.
That's true. This is everybody. This is the whole team.
History
Whoa.
of the making here.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So, thank
The
you guys.
first and last time.
That's right.
Probably, yeah.
So, yeah, it's a bold new direction for 2016. CP16. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Thank you for joining us and, you know, lending your expertise and opinions and feelings on these topics of the day. And we'll see you guys next time. I am Sal.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Tiffany.
Keep reading.